There's no kind of like insurance in buying a business, right? Like you either perform or you don't, and you're stuck with the repercussions of that or not. Because we either deliver you a number of customers and revenue, because we control that process. That's what everyone's dealing with, and it doesn't agnostic of franchising, right? If you're in small business, these are the types of gaps and things that you're experiencing. Is you're always worried about where your next customer is going to come from.
If you're running your own consultancy, financial advisory, or accounting firm, and you're trying to figure out how to grow, hire, price, and not lose your mind in the process, you're in the right place. I'm Delmarie Salcedo. Welcome to the Consulting Engine. With me today is Zac Celaya, who is the co-founder of RevRise. It's a consulting firm specialized in helping franchises pre-launch or launch in order to help them be successful. Zac, welcome to the show. Really glad to have you on.
Thank you. Thanks for the introduction.
So for those who aren't familiar with your business, what exactly does RevRise do? Who do you do it for? How did you come to be?
I guess I'll start with coming to be to best explain, because this isn't something you just think up. It is very niche, which we've continued to go deeper into. We've been able to help more people that way. More of my background has been sales and marketing in multiple capacities. I kind of accidentally wound up in franchising 9 years ago. I was recruited into a large franchise group that owned a dozen automotive franchise brands. So I was basically in and out of locations, helping generate more revenue and increase overall operations. That led to me exploring health and wellness franchising, early stage franchising, and later more so specifically in franchise recruitment, which was a franchise model grows one of two ways, which is I own a location and I expand to more, or we get new owners in to open up more locations specifically. In that route, I was in that development cycle of how do we find new owners that meet our specific criteria and vet them through and set right expectations for long-term growth. That kind of sets the stage for RevRise, because specifically what we do is we partner with new business owners and franchises to help them open up profitably pretty much day one and remove a lot of the taxing things that goes in between training, hiring, marketing, sales, finding a location, developing that build out. So all that and being said, it's very easy to get distracted and take your foot off the gas when it comes to focused on what matters most, which is cash flow, when you just spent 500 grand or $1 million building out a business. And I saw that happen a lot. And the biggest thing that we saw was a good majority of business owners that didn't find success early on never made it past year two. So it was kind of like a big back end priority for me, especially, a franchise business is as attractive as business economics, or why wouldn't you start something else if you're looking to get into business? And getting sharp on the marketing and sales lens within larger, expensive, high ticket kind of atmosphere of sales within finding people, because that's all sales and marketing is, right? Is how do I find someone who I serve and how do I get them into a process that allows them to win as a customer and me to win as a business, which is serving them best. And I always got obsessed with it. So I did custom build outs on Salesforce, HubSpot, these different platforms. And as we've seen this kind of AI wave happen a long time ago, but infancy of where it is now, I was caught at a pickle between I had to let go of half of my team and we were growing at a rate we've never grown before. And so I spent 2 nights figuring out how to implement some AI within HubSpot and booking systems and so on and so forth. And it worked really well, so well that it was a huge kind of open mind for me with RevRise to say, okay, sales and marketing could look very different in this new age. And what would this look like from a B2C perspective? Because I'd gotten really good at the other side of things. And at that time, we had a lot of owners that we needed to get open within a brand that I was representing. And that was the inception of RevRise. And RevRise essentially was an owner would choose to either hire us as a service to go ahead and do all of their marketing and sales before opening, because the other option is there. They got to do it. And what's interesting about insurance is it applies towards cars and homes, which are the more expensive purchases you'll get. There's no kind of like insurance in buying a business, right? Like you either perform or you don't, and you're stuck with the repercussions of that or not. And what we found is a lot more people were much more willing to have functional experts step in at the most critical time in their business to run good paid advertising, have good nurture sequences to convert them into customers. So essentially, that's all Revrise does. Is anyone who's grand opening a new location, typically membership based, health and wellness based, we go ahead and drive the demand so that there's enough revenue coming in day one to cover your fixed expenses versus starting day one with no customers and fighting that uphill climb of cash burn and getting exhausted along the way. And then we have a customer for life because they're probably going to open up another location. Franchising is definitely about scale and expansion. Your favorite sports team's a franchise. When we go stay at Marriott, that's a franchise. So we're consumed by franchising, but the back end bones of what kind of builds it is somewhat not spoken of. So we operate within that specific window that not either many people know about, and is a huge issue, huge problem that solves a lot because as a franchise brand too, which is more of our core customer, because we'll partner with franchise brands to give this as an opportunity for new franchise owners in the system, which gives them a bit of a competitive moat, and it gives them healthier economics because they get a royalty. So the faster revenue could be driven, higher success of the franchise owner, happiness of the franchise owner, and it benefits both parties. So we're everyone's best friends in franchising. That's what
Got
we
it.
do.
So when did RevRise become, when did it start to feel like a real business versus just a side hustle?
So we had partnered with Beamlight Sauna. It was an early stage franchise concept in the recovery space, infrared sauna, regular sauna, red light therapy. You've seen this past 5 years, different places like that blow
Mm-hmm.
up.
Mm-hmm.
We had awarded over 330 locations in 2.5 years, which means that's exciting. That's great. But also, that's a lot of work to get 330 locations open as fast as
Yes.
possible. So, that being said, that was our opportunity. So, our first year in business, essentially, we opened up over 40 locations and gathered a ton of data and a lot of system upgrading, changed platforms. I mean, we can go deeper, I'm sure, with specific questions on what specifically to help others with their customer acquisition strategy and all of this. Because with volume, especially within platform services, right, or technology services, is it could be very expensive depending at the volume you're operating in, email sent, text sent, all those types of things. So I'm pretty sure our technology was over 100 grand. And I'm like, this cannot be the ongoing. So I was looking for better, more effective ways to do it that wasn't volume based, but essentially immediately, because it was like, how do you know when something's significant? People need you if they want you and they're willing to spend a lot of money towards it, and it's a big problem. And that was it. We were charging $50,000 to open up these businesses. We had a full refund guarantee that if we missed kind of our revenue and member mark, we would just refund that difference. So it was kind of a no lose lose situation for the party. I'd say what really solidified that is when we went to market to other brands in that space to see, well, how much of an education curve is this for brands? Because they're interesting a lot in us, right? They could impact the
Mm-hmm.
franchisee, impact the brand. Fortunately for us, our founders are basically founders of franchise brands, executives within franchise brands. So we kind of understand what makes it tick from that level and support, which has been a benefit to us. An advantage. We come from the space, so those natural connections and contacts and systems we already had built into us, but very rare for us. It was pretty immediate because it was a problem I was looking to solve for a really long time for people.
That's amazing that you guys are able to jump in there and, like you said, the trifecta of something people really need and are willing to pay for, and you guys have the skills to deliver on. So these days, beyond being the co-founder, how would you define your primary responsibilities? What do you kind of oversee the most?
It changed a lot this year specifically for us. So basically, I stepped out of the day to day in January. So it's been a couple months of that. Very scary step to take, of course, for many reasons, but so necessary because sometimes as founders, you're getting in the way of your team taking over. And I am a big picture thinker. I'm your classic visionary when it comes to leadership styles, which means I'm not the most organized. I'm not but I've got the big picture thinking going on, right? Well, I just applied that to areas that could be most beneficial to the company and letting our ops heads and marketing teams really establish their level set for accountability. So for me, it's more like marketing campaigns is really where I'm able to infiltrate the most now because it's like, how do I communicate this message better to the audience that I want to and continue to forward think how we solve these specific problems versus the day to day production of it. And then mainly larger enterprise account oversight and business development is really where I sit in. That's where, more of my purpose is. Love people, love helping them. And so connecting into that and getting to brag about my team allows me to really enjoy it, because my team's way better than me at delivering the fulfillment on the services for sure.
And so now that you've kind of backed away and you're kind of really coming into your big picture thinking, beyond revenue and kind of making your financial goals, how are you guys measuring success? What does, 1, 2, 3 years look like?
Measuring success is very cut and dry. When you're in, is what we removed is the frickin' frack between how do you scale a small business? Because when you're starting at zero, anything under $1 million is incredibly hard. It's an uphill battle because there's just not margin for either professional third party services or technology or these other things. So you're bootstrapping it to a point to where you can't anymore. And then there's that like next layer and then getting yourself out of the business and everything else if you choose to do that. So for us, it was like, how do we provide a actual quality service? Because you hear a lot of not great service when you're under $1 million because you just can't afford that other
Mm.
technology service or that great marketing company that specializes in this one thing. And then that means you still need to do it. So what's the alternative? Spend more of your time, which there's probably not much left to do as the owner or founder, um, or fire someone every 90 days and go through that same ring them around. Because a marketing company selling leads, so all they know is let me get you cheaper leads, but they don't know if it's generating sales or converting, right? So that's the absence there. And they're blaming the sales team. And then your sales team, what are they doing? They're blaming the leads. So our whole model is very simple as far as how we track success, because we either deliver you a number of customers and revenue, because we control that process from running the ad campaigns to nurturing that lead to getting them on a consult call to closing the sale in your customer CRM point of sale system, right? So very transparent. There's really nothing to hide there. We either closed this many sales or we didn't, or we refund the difference. So the success metric is don't refund, because now we have great business economics and the customer is happy, period. So like there's no soft area. It's like full accountability. We were as good as we said we were, and we have to live with the repercussions of not being great. Fortunately, we have a bunch of data and we have all the mechanics, and it's very just operationally built and templatized to a point and then customized to that specific need or service. But outside of that, that's essentially how we measure success. For us, long term success is essentially the volume at which we could output new store openings. So, just to kind of lay the framework for you, there's 4,000 franchise brands that exist across the US. There's 300 to 400 new brands that enter the marketplace every year. So there's a lot going on there, right? There's about 15,000 new franchise owners entered into the franchise system every year, which means every franchise system, if it were all average, everyone was is doing about 3 new placements a year. Well, you probably have seen there's a lot of brands that are doing hundreds of new placements and openings. So there's, that's the average. Well, for us, if you and I were to find 100 owners willing to deploy the capital and operate within a business and all of those types of things, that's great. How are you going to make sure that they make money, that they open on time, all of those aspects of it? So we really fill that void. And because franchising's growing at such a rapid rate because people are wanting to bet on themselves versus the stock market or other things that you have no control on, and burnt out from just the corporate political ring around, right? And that's the people that you find step into franchising, but they were a CFO, not, they don't want to market, they don't want to sell, right? They'll hire the team and be a great leader and developer of that, or they're at the realm of the labor rate, which is at an all-time high and it keeps getting more every single year. And those people aren't your skilled salespeople or your skilled,
Mhm.
specific expert. So again, there's only so many options, and that probably demeans us, meaning we don't have to be that great to. Um, but that's what everyone's dealing with, and it doesn't agnostic of franchising, right? If you're in small business, these are the types of gaps and things that you're experiencing. Is you're always worried about where your next customer is going to come from. I did a mastermind last year, and my first question was, if I were to hand you 20 more customers today, would you be able to like take them on, or you can't, supply demand issue, right? Not a single hand raised. I'm like, okay, so we all need more customers. So, and was home service businesses that was, across the board, because it's not an issue of having the capacity to fulfill on the customer, it's getting the customers. And if you can get them, can you keep them?
Mhm.
So, between all of that, I really like businesses to focus on keeping their customers. But if they're always focused on where their next customer is going to be, you're constantly chasing your tail. So for us, if there was just somebody fully focused on new customer acquisition, that allows you and your team to do really what you want to do, which is deliver the customer experience, the fulfillment, which is what you're an expert in. And you could spend all your time there. It's like the 80-20 rule, right? You got to pick and choose. And that's what we're able to like put either vendor partners that we're in business with, SaaS providers, because your service works if it goes right, meaning the customer gets you the information back that you need, if it's done in a timely manner, then you could guarantee a result because you control it, but you don't. So what happens is this thing doesn't work for me. You as the service provider, technology, or whatever, say
Mhm.
does, but we are operating in it. So we get to actually use the tools to the full capacity. So when we come off and they step in and it drops, they can't blame the technology anymore or this or that. They're just not doing it. And that's the main problem that we solve outside of franchising and enfranchising, because they're saying, here's the business playbook. If you follow this, you will have this level of success. Here's all the audited financial information that you could see. Well, why doesn't that happen? And it's because they don't hire on time. Maybe they don't deploy the capital as they should. Whatever may happen in between, so you don't get a predictable result. So either way, that's essentially kind of our pocket in which we're operating in and some of the solutions that we provide.
I love that you guys have been super clear with your focus and kind of this unrelentless dedication to the kind of the critical path for a client or like the core value chain that you're focused on. And you've really kind of solved or tried to solve every single piece of that experience and how you guys deliver, how your clients experience it. But I wonder kind of on all of the things that have nothing to do with your core value chain, but are still part of running your business. And maybe this takes you back to your day-to-day days, if you will, back before January. What were those things that take up a lot of headspace or take up a lot of your time that, again, took you away from this core value chain? And maybe you've solved them, maybe you haven't, but so those kind
Right.
of big headaches that you had.
Lack of focus, meaning when you're doing more than one thing, it's proven it doesn't work, right? It takes you like 10 to 15 minutes to even get back on track. And that could happen from a support ticket. That could happen from happen from a teammate calling you and asking whatever the case may be. And it's perceived progress because you feel busy. But when you pick your head up, it's like nothing's completed. And so that's a big priority order. So like our whole kind of growth method has been more plugging in functional experts to one thing, which is boring, but boring wins too. Like boring's what gets you there. Like defense, what wins championships. No one wants to play defense because it's boring. You didn't get to score. So either way, that I'd say that was a big component, absolutely for sure. Two, customer expectation. That's a big one. Again, we're very result driven. That's our business model is basically results as a service. Like, because it doesn't matter how we get there. It's kind of like if we don't do this, right? That's what we're aiming for. However, we figure it out, which makes us nimble because it's like, hey, for whatever reason, this isn't working, but here's our Rolodex of things that we could do and we can move at the speed we need to. But if you haven't done something, it's difficult to understand how challenging or not challenging it is. So we could deliver, let's say I did a service for you, for example, and whatever that may be. You've never done it, and I deliver this great result. There's always that question of, could I have done it better, more, whatever the case may be, right? And so typically you deal with someone in pain and then you help them out of that pain as far as, you know, and we've done that, but we stopped doing that business of people desperate, basically helping desperate customers like sign my lease, rent's already coming in. We haven't sold a single cell. And franchisors regulate this. This is actually something many people don't know. You have to have this much customers until you could open. A lot of them regulate that because they know it doesn't get easier after you open. That comes with more cash burden and the buzz is gone because you're open and they can come see you and try you. So they don't know that, right? They're new. So it's like a very emotionally aware of trying to educate and understand because they're obviously freaking out, right? I see
Mhm.
no, and I'm dealing with all of this stuff. But when we step in, If it's that late, there's only so much we could do. There's only
Yeah.
so much we could do. But if we step in too early, it's, well, I could pay a marketing company or I could pay this service provider to do these things for me. It can't be that hard to get a customer. I mean, my gosh, this is a franchise, it's a national franchise. Because, I mean, let's be honest, why would they choose a brand? They had to be sold the dream a little bit. Or why would you ever separate from $1 million or $500,000 to step into a business? Because you're thinking about year five, but you're not thinking about how hard year one's going to be and year two's going to be, and the person that lets, fire you, let go, and all those dynamics that are going to happen. But, just like puppy love, right? It's like they're wonderful until not, right? Until you go through enough seasons to go, oh, okay, they're not perfect. They're
Yeah.
not fully perfect. So
So,
customer expectations was a big thing as far as holding back, because one, we desperately, like, that's why we're in business, is because we believe in franchising. If the
mhm.
franchisee fails, everyone does. The technology provider, the franchisor, the brand, themselves, their family. This was to fund their college education for their kids or whatever the case may be. So it feels good when those expectations are met. Even meaning we could hit our target and still not people be super thrilled, and that was challenging for me in the beginning for sure.
Yeah, I can imagine being able to deliver on something and still not having a satisfied customer. I noticed that a lot of your challenges were still really kind of focused on client facing or kind of being with the business. And I wonder if it's because a lot of the back end stuff you've may have solved through technology or
Mm.
have it outsourced.
Right.
Um, Talk to me about that. That seems to be running well since you didn't mention it.
Yeah, I think this probably would be really helpful for those trying to figure out how to get more customers, because that's really where all my dedication and focus was. And small business with expenses too. So part of my journey and path was, I was on HubSpot for a very long time. And essentially, at least back then, because it's been some time, it's pretty much free to get started, but it costs to open up different capacities within that platform. And more of their pricing model is the more volume, the more it costs, right? More emails, more what contacts, all that type of stuff. Then it was like a big, when we were taking off, right? It was like, well, let's get to Salesforce, because we were kind of Frankenstein HubSpot. We Frankenstein some early like SMS AI compilations, things like that, to really remove that like typical SDR role, or the phone
Okay.
screener role, the appointment setting role, that general admin role that everyone has a headache with, right? Because that's a quick turnover role. It's not a fun role. And so I had solved that, but it was at volume. There's new things to solve, right? Like what got you here is very different than what gets you here. So the evolution is custom Salesforce build, is everyone's on this chase for this front end of AI, right? So it was like, this is the solve. Spent a ton of money that way. Salesforce is, you could have whatever you want, right? It's the number one enterprise CRM kind of platform out there. It's great, which means it costs a lot of money to get someone who knows what they're doing to build it out to be that way. And that was a challenge and learning lesson, because it cracked up to what we thought it was. And by the time it was there was all kinds of new innovations from a technology and AI standpoint. And so what we decided to do is, well, let's take control over one of our most important aspects, because how we control margin is how much that we could utilize AI software, getting customers, all of this stuff. So we moved over to Go High Level, which is like a super inexpensive other kind of headline CRM. A lot of agencies use it as a supplier, or even sell it as like white labeled SaaS. And so we weren't always this focused. We hey, well, maybe we take a SaaS angle, maybe we do some, business as a service, SaaS, again, a little bit of everything, which means you get nowhere quick, lack of focus again. Either way, we were able to develop all of this in there. And because it's all like open API and easy to connect, as AI has come out with new technology, voice agents, SMS capabilities, things like that, we just continue to develop that internally. We'll outsource. Well, what we do outsource is going to be specific things that are just way ahead, and that could be a specific tool. So, like, for example, there's your typical like open platform SMS and phone systems, like your Just Calls of the world, or those types of platforms, or within Go High Level, their backend's Twilio, for example, so open source. That comes with marketing approvals like A2P verification, so that you're not just spamming people, right? So there's a lot of regulations on how you communicate to people from a mass marketing and opting in and all that stuff. And then you've got the private, like Verizon, T-Mobile, that's just kind of like your private lines. It's not like business mass blast. There's iMessage. Over the past 2 years, there's these companies that have come out to where you could basically plug those things in, which increases your open rate. You could send video, a lot of the stuff, just like you're iMessaging a friend, right? Your face comes up in the thing. So it's almost like a spam email versus like me directly emailing you. Your opt-in rate, your click-through rate's way better. Plugging around, starting to test in those things. And those are priced different. So like all of these things are ways that we help our customer, right? Because it's how do we get a customer cheaper and get them to stay longer? And that's like just fundamental. So we dove into all of that, which gave us a lot more power and control over the business. It gave more leverage to our customers. It made us a lot more sticky because it's like, who spends this much time figuring out how to data scrape, cold outreach, get a hold of them, get them booked to someone who's like a trained stateside, not like overseas sales, like commission team, to then convert them and then have all that data circulate to close the loop. Because if you have a marketing company, your sales team, again, it's all fragmented, right? Because we're in small business. They don't speak. Very problematic, which is why
Hmm.
to really gain traction. So for us, we scrape all of our phone calls, all of our texts. How are people communicating to us? What do they communicate better to on? So we have all of this data. Well, if they're this age, they communicate through text. And if it's this offer, they communicate through phone, whatever the case may be. All of that's fed into our ads team, which is one central zone. So our targeting just gets better daily based off every sell and transaction and communication that we have. So it's like the longer we're with a customer, the more tight it gets and that kind of feedback loop gets. Those are some of the technology services. So go high level, super inexpensive. You don't have to be a genius. You just have to be willing to spend a lot of time on YouTube and Claude and screenshot and prompting. That platform's also made huge innovations when it comes to AI and prompting within it. Most agencies use this because it's so collaborative within different processing systems, CRMs, marketing, all of that type of stuff, which is what we're missing as small business owners. Is for an inexpensive discounted rate, how do I get things like contribution margin to my ad so I actually know where I'm making money and different things like that. Those are the main tools. G Suite. So we'll use like Notebook LM. This is great for like weekly for storage on it. Claude's a big. We just did Team Claude, which is actually really cool. It's kind of that next layer up. It's great because it integrates everything. That's been huge. And then outside of that, it's really more about the stuff that we mess with the most is lead generation. How do we get more contacts to feed things to opt in, and how do we get more of those people opted in into a paying customer? So getting a hold of them, getting in contact with them. That's mainly where we layer everything in. Outside of that, it's pretty simple, right? We have our own CRM, which we built out of their G Suite. So we use those functionalities, and Claude's kind of like our main go to. But every week there's a new front runner in this AI ecosystem on what does what.
Is so true. And it sounds like you've learned a lot in your journey, both like on trying to figure out how to make franchises successful, trying to figure out what's the right tool that's going to do all the things and what's worth your time, what's not worth your time. So I wonder, like, as you look back and kind of reflect, what would you say most people get wrong about running a company at your stage when in terms of like where RevRise is now? And what do you wish somebody had told you? What are those big lessons learned?
Myself and the hundreds of people I helped get into business, right? Because that was a big for my life. People always underutilize how much capital and time it takes. They just underestimate, like, they can get there. It's just going to take more money and time than you think it is. Happened to me. It's just something you always underestimate. Because it's like, to me, it comes down to starting, because most people just delay so long they never get started. It's like they just had to read the book or place one ad, like it, but it took them 2 years to get over that curve of actually doing it. So starting and not quitting, that's it. Like that's, to me, like those are the core components. Because I've even seen people come into this space because of the buzz that we've created and come out just as quick because they quit, right? Because it was more expensive and it took longer to figure out than they thought it was going to. So for me, I would say that was definitely a tough lesson. I think all the simple stuff is the hardest, like people. So business partnerships, that's hard. You have to agree. Like that's really hard to do. When you got money on the line, people on the line, things that you care about, all of those things. And so it's like, what's your value systems? Are you in business with the right people? Is your core purpose aligned? Like those are the things like flat out, it's always just goes back to the fundamentals. Outside of that, I would say I definitely underestimated the deals, meaning to me, I look at scale way different because if I'm working with 10 different businesses, the kind of operational bandwidth I need is double if it was just 10 of one of the same business, which is basic math, right? Because it's more copy and paste kind of
Mm-hmm.
mechanism. But I think for us as business owners, anyone in it, that's the struggle early on is they have to say yes to everything. Because if they don't have any business, and when you say yes to everything, your cost to fulfill is double, and you just never scale, and you eventually get burnout and quit. And so it's kind of just like retraining yourself, putting the soap in your mouth after you say a bad word, kind of thing of like, I will never say that word again to learn your lesson. And I did. Again, we went the SaaS way. We were doing well in that, but for the time and things that we had to put into it, given the value we were actually adding versus what we're doing now, is it was like no one could do what we're doing now to the level we're doing it at the throughput we are. The other stuff, I couldn't necessarily say that because that's not what we were best in. Right? That's not what we were functional experts in. So getting, yeah, I your own way. That's just
That's a
getting,
big one.
getting out of your own way with it, which is very challenging and humbles you, which is why I love business because it's probably the most accountable thing and humbling thing you could do because you can't blame anyone. It's yours. Your business is as good as you are.
That's right. Well, I really appreciate you being here and sharing all of your insights for the audience. Before we leave, where can people find you or learn more about RevRise if something you said today resonated?
Top two channels, our site, which is just as simple as it sounds, revrise.com, REVRYZE. So you may say RevRuse, but it's RevRise. Either way, now you'll remember it. What's great is we have a bunch of free stuff. So we're doing like our kind of go forward right here is how do we educate as many people on this stuff as possible for free so they understand what they're stepping into so they don't go through the hurdles we did. Because I was a franchise owner too. Again, I've worn a lot of hats. So either way, our website, LinkedIn's probably the second best platform. So follow us there. We'll do group stuff on there and it provide free education too. Those are probably the two best ways to connect with us. RevRise, type in the name. Me personally, Zac Celaya, you can look me up there too if you want to connect that way. Anything franchising related. But yeah, we have like a free 120-day kind of sprint to getting your business open, showing you the exact technology, showing you the exact scripts, showing you the exact outreach, again, to give to people because the biggest gap is they just don't do it. So if they don't want to, they can hire us. So happy to
Mm-hmm.
help you either way, knowledge wise or actually doing it for you.
Well, thank you so much, Zach, for being on the show. As for our audience, if you got something useful out of this episode, make sure to like it, share it with someone who's in the middle of building their own company. Until next time, this is a wrap, The Consulting Engine. I'm Del Marie Salcedo. See you next episode.